Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this big fella right here, Big Trouble in Little China the Game from Everything Epic. Now, this has a lot of stuff in it. It has a lot of content, a lot of things that you have to go over to truly get how to play the game. I'm not going to be able to get to everything. I'm just saying that right now on the upfront. I'm not going to worry about minutia. I just want to give you a basic idea of how the game plays so that you can have a better idea on whether or not you're going to like it. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into how this game works in a basic generalistic way. Let's hit it. Alright, so here I have set up for you a 3-player game of Big Trouble in Little China the Game from Everything Epic. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty epic board. It is taking up a very large space on the table. So there is a lot of components in this game. There are a lot of things to do in this game. So with that having been said, I'm not going to be able to show you every little bit of minutia that comes in the game. But hopefully what I'm going to do here is give you a general idea of how the game plays, so that you can make a better decision on whether or not this is something you're going to want to go after and purchase. All right, so the game takes place in basically 2 acts. Act 1 is what you see here, where the players are going to be running around Chinatown trying to accomplish different quests. But what we're trying to do here in Act 1 is we're trying to level ourselves up to make ourselves more powerful, because in Act 2, we're actually going to go face off with David Lopan and all of the minions that show up in Act 2. And of course, the way we win or lose the game is by defeating or not defeating David Lopan. Now, within each act, each round takes place in 2 phases. There is a hero phase, where the heroes will use their dice and get different actions and move around the board and so forth and so on. And then once all of the heroes have done their actions, we go to the enemy phase, where the enemies that are on the board will move towards us and fight us and that type of stuff. Now, in the hero phase, the first thing that you do is you take one of the Big Trouble cards and you flip it over and resolve its effects. All right, so the effect of this card is that we're going to remove available shop item tokens from the black market, place face down crate tokens from supply onto the empty shop spaces. These crates may be acquired with the zone action instead. All right, so that is going to take effect. There are some effects. If it can't happen, then it doesn't. And then after that, we also are going to spawn people based upon the number of players or versions of the game that you're going to be using in that zone S14. At this point, the heroes would decide who is going to go first, and then you would take turns in clockwise action that way. So at this point, let's take a few moments and go over the actual hero boards. You have a health track, which starts at 10, and then you also have a chi track that starts at 5 for this specific game. That will change depending upon how many players are playing the game. But chi is used to see when you can level up. When you defeat minions and so forth, then they're going to give you a certain number of chi, which will progress you towards leveling up. You also have these level up tokens here, and so when you level up, you can, for example, everybody starts at level 1, which means you can have 1 special ability or special card available to you, and Jack Burton has chosen Jack's Knife, which gives him the ability to re-roll 1 die on all combat rolls. He also starts with a special ability, which is actually double-sided. There's a co-op ability on the back here. So this token here could be flipped over to use that special ability later on. Of course, you want to probably save it for a dire circumstance. Now, first thing you do on your turn is you roll your dice. All right, and this gives you the different kinds of things. There are body, mind, and spirit sides of the dice. So these 2 are body, and so they have to be placed up here in this row, and then this spirit has to be placed in that row right there. Now, when you place dice, it depends upon what kind of space you're placing it in. For example, the spirit die would be placed in a normal slot, which would give you a somewhat diminished ability. But if you place them in these epic spaces, they give you stronger abilities. For example, one of the things that you can do on your turn is move. If you use the spirit die to place it here, you get 2 movement. But if you use one of the body dice and put it into a epic spot, then you can move 3 spaces instead of just 2. Additionally, if you're doing a combat action and you place it in a regular spot, you'll simply roll a white die for combat, which is going to give you 2 failure abilities and only 1 2 success, and then a whole bunch of 1 successes. But if you place it in a epic spot, then you're going to be able to use a yellow die, which gives you a 3 success, a couple of 2s, and only 1 failure. So that's something to take into account later on. Other things that you can do on your turn is accomplish a skill check or attempt a skill check. For example, if Jack wants to try to start his quest here, bringing home the bacon, this would be flipped over. And these are different things that you have to accomplish. Now, what will happen here is you have 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 here, as you can see on the card. And what that means is it denotes a section of the quest book that you have to read in order to get what you're doing and the different things that you're going to be doing there. So I don't want to show you too much here, but as you can see, there's just a whole lot of stuff in here to read. And I'm not going to show you everything, but so what you have to do to accomplish a quest, there are a couple of things. Sometimes there are skill checks, which means that will give you a number of successes. So maybe it'll say skill check 3 or skill check 4. That means you have to roll a number of dice, and if it's, for example, a skill check 4, and you roll two successes, then you have accomplished that skill. Tasks are a little bit different because you are still rolling dice trying to get as many specifics as possible, but you can never fail a task. You can continue attempting a task until you complete it. Then there is also the ability to rest. Resting does take an action, and you simply have to use your die like that, and then you can heal up to 2 health per die spent. And if you're at full health, then you can actually repair 1 chi or gain 1 chi instead. But if you place that 1 die to rest in an epic spot, then you're going to be able to regain 3 health, and then of course the 1 chi if you are at full health. So to recap that, the things that you can do in your phase is movement, combating, doing skill checks, doing task checks, and resting. Now, just to give you a very basic idea of how combat works, let's just say that Jack is up here in S14 battling that Wing Kong Hatchet Man and the Wing Kong 6-shooter. So we're going to go ahead and go after the big guy, the 6-shooter, because he has ranged combat. He's a little bit more dangerous than the Hatchet Man. But what we first do is we have to define which dice we're going to use. Now, since we're going after the big guy here, the Wing Kong 6-shooter, I'm going to use both of my body dice in those 2 epic slots, and what that's going to give me is 2 yellow attack dice that I can roll. Now, if I want to make sure that I hit, I can also use this, and it will also give me a white die to roll as well. So I think I'm going to do that because I want to make sure I want to try to make sure I take out that 6-shooter. But we also need to keep in mind that Jack's knife gives us the ability to reroll 1 die on all combat checks. So we're going to take these 3 dice and roll them. All right, so we have 2, 4, and we have a miss. So we're going to use Jack's knife and reroll this one. And it's a 1. So I have 2, 4, 5 hits, and we need 5 in order to hit. Now, what would have happened here with Strike Back is that if I would have missed, we would have rolled 2 dice, gold dice, and then I would have taken damage equal to the roll's result. And if he would have rolled 2 misses, I would have taken a hell card, which is basically a curse that stays with me until I can get it removed somehow. But since I did equal or exceed his defense value, he's defeated and he's removed from the board, which gives me a reward of 4 chi, which is tracked by this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm 1 away from actually leveling up now, and that's basically how combat works. Now, on the enemy phase, since that Hatchet Man is still there, the Hatchet Man is going to do 3 damage automatically. They don't have to roll for damage. But I am going to be able to roll my defense, which is a gold and a white die. So we'll go ahead and roll that, and every success blocks 1 of those points of damage. Ugh. So I missed completely, which means that my health will come down to 7 from 10. Now, if I wanted to, since I really whiffed on that defense roll, if I wanted to, I could use one of these fate dice, for example, this 2 right here, in order to block at least 2 of that 3 damage that I just took. But if I do that, at the end of my turn, I'm going to have to roll this fate die, and since it's the first one, if it's something bad, which it was, I'm going to, all other heroes are going to lose 3 health, and then this would be placed right here, denoting that the first one has been rolled, and now the second one, this would be the bad thing that happens, and then the third would be the bad thing that happens, and so forth and so on. So the fate dice are always available on your turn, but you can only use 1 per turn, so you have to be kind of judicious. Now, once Act 1 has been completed by either the Big Trouble track or the Audacity track reaching the center, then Act 2 begins. Lo Pan shows up right here, and then other kinds of minions are spawned based upon how well you did at finishing the different quests that were in the game and available to you. So there's basically, first of all, if the Big Trouble track ends Act 1, then this is the stuff that gets placed. So you spawn enemies up to the number of players shown below. So we would, if the Big Trouble track ended Act 1, we would place 1 Spirit Path Warrior, 2 Security Guards, and 3 Wing Kong 6 shooters in those spaces. But if the Audacity track ended Act 1, then we would spawn enemies differently. Now, if Wang Chi was able to finish his quest, then these are extra things that are going to be spawned on this side of the board of people we have to fight through. If he did not complete it, then this is what's going to be added to this part of the game. Similarly, if Jack Burton completed his, then this is what would be used for the setup for the second act. And if he did not complete it, it would be using this side of the card in order to set up. And everybody would actually start here in the elevator right there. Where is Gracie? There it is. Okay, there's Gracie and Jack. And so basically minions would be spawned all over the place here, and we would have to fight through those minions and get to David Lo Pan, and then also kill him as well. So as you look at these bosses here, for example, this is David Lo Pan. Every time you do a damage to him, you're going to click him down once. In order to do a damage to him, you have to get 6 successes. And if you hit him, you get 2 chi. Normally, with the regular minions, you only get the chi if you defeat them. But if you hit him, you get 2 chi. If you miss, though, he's going to strike you back for 3, which is pretty bad. Now, when he attacks you, you're going to roll 1 die. And so if it's this, you roll 2. If it's this, you do this, and so forth and so on. Once you hit him 1, 2, 3 times, he actually flips over. And now he is made flesh. And, of course, his marker goes back here. And you have to hit him 3 more times. But this time it's a little bit easier to hit. And you're still getting chi and all of that kind of stuff as well. Once you defeat David Lo Pan, it's over and you have won. But if you don't defeat him, if his minions knock you out or what have you, then you have lost. And that, in a very, very general sense, is how you play Big Trouble in Little China. Let's get to my final thoughts. So there you have how to play Big Trouble in Little China in a nutshell. That's about the best as I can do because I don't want to take too much time doing this, but I think I gave you a general idea of how everything works together. Now, with that being said, if you like Big Trouble in Little China, I think you're going to really enjoy this game. But there is a caveat there. Because back in the 80s when this movie came out, PG rating was, I believe, what this was given. And there's a lot of salty language in that movie, and a lot of that salty language made the transfer over into this game and the different text that is read. Even some of the names of the quests that I tried not to show are salty. That's the best I can say. So just understand that on the beginning, because that might affect whether or not you want to pick up the game. Maybe it won't. If you enjoyed the movie, there's nothing else. Nothing else has been added. The salty language that was in the movie is basically the same kind of salty language that is here. So just keep that in mind as we go through. But if you liked the movie, I think you will enjoy greatly this game, because it really in many aspects follows the movie almost to a T. Not really though, because there are other kinds of things that are happening and going on that were not shown in the movie. So there is that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have other things planned where you have further adventures of Jack Burton and so forth and so on. So there is that. There's also a time travel version of the game where you can go back in time, or David Lopan goes back in time and messes up with all these kind of things, and you have to follow him through time. And so it's not just the movie, there's more to it than that. But if you liked the movie, I think you'll like this. Now, if you didn't like the movie, will you like this? I don't know, because it is a very thematic game, but I do think that the gameplay is fun enough to pull those in. Maybe it'll be something like, if you've never seen the movie, well, now I want to go see it because I enjoy the game so much, or something to that effect. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the pros of the game. First of all, I like the fact that each character has their own specific special abilities deck. They have their own special things that they can do. And on top of that, each character board is different, with which spaces has epic abilities and which spaces are just regular abilities. So everybody's defense is different. So there is a lot of diversification, I guess you could say, between the different characters, and I really enjoy it when games do that, because my character feels different than your character, which feels different than his character, which feels different than her character. Another positive aspect of the game for me is the ability to level up your character, where you don't just have one special ability at the end of the game. You've got 3 or 4, and then, oh, I also got a reward card that's giving me this other ability. At the end of the game, you feel like a Hollywood hero, action hero. There is no doubt about it. At the beginning of the game, you feel kind of buff, but you're still weak. But at the end of the game, you are walking into the joint saying, hey, I'm here. You know, that type of stuff. So I really enjoy that about games, when you can level up your characters, and this one really has it. Each of the different monsters had a very different feel to them as well. It didn't feel like each of them were just kind of the same thing. So, I mean, when you have a whole bunch of hatchetmen and a couple of 6-shooters and a couple of Lords of Death, they're all different, and you really have to choose well which one you're going to attack first, because they're all doing different amounts of damage to you. They're attacking you in different ways. So I like it when games do that too. They give you that feel of, you're not just attacking a mass of bad dudes. You're actually attacking different guys that will have different effects on you, so you have to choose which ones you're going to attack and take out first, so that you can minimize the damage or minimize the bad effects that happen to you. The component quality in this game is off the charts. The miniatures that are used, I'll just show them here like this. Because I don't want to take time to show all of them to you. The miniatures are amazingly well done. They're not great. Think slightly, ever so slightly below something like Simon or something to that effect. They still have a lot of great detail. Not quite as good as some other companies, but still very, very well done. And they will be a very fun paint to take care of as well. The heroes are also very well done. Here is Gracie, and then here is Jack Burton having those epic poses where from the movie, and this is Wang Chi. So this is just the component quality is just amazing. The dice were all very good. They're a little bit angular for my taste. I like rounded corners on dice a little bit more, but that didn't really matter to me. The dice were very good quality, very chunky, and they're etched surfaces, not heat applied or painted or anything like that. No stickers. Oh my goodness, no stickers. Thank you. But component quality was off the charts. Now, some of the cons of the game, really there are very few of them for me, because I enjoyed the movie a lot way back in the day, and this is the movie in a board game. That is what this game is, and so I enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the game a lot as well. We were cracking quotes from the movie back and forth, and reading the different parts of the quest book in character voices, and we were just having a great time with it. I don't know if you're gonna like the game if you didn't like the movie. I think it's possible, because I think the gameplay is interesting enough, and there's a lot of decisions to be made, and yeah, you're rolling a lot of dice, but there's ways to mitigate what kind of dice you're rolling to try to get the strongest or the best number of hits. So there's that. Man, I'm actually having trouble coming up with a con here, because I really enjoyed the game, but I guess there is a lot of dice rolling. So if you don't like that random factor of the game, that might be a huge letdown for you, because there is a lot of dice rolling. I'm really having trouble here. I'm really having trouble coming up with a, I guess maybe it plays a little bit long. And I don't think it plays too long, don't get me wrong, but some people out there might think, yeah, this drug on a little bit. Whenever you have a game that splits from in two halves, basically, once you finish that first half, you have a feeling or a sense of completion, but you're not done. So that might work against it. Now, you might be liking the game so much that you're like, yeah, let's get into Act 2, let's go. But some people might be saying, okay, well, we finished Act 1. Can we do Act 2 later? Now, I want to say this. Act 2 is nowhere near as long as Act 1. It is really kind of an in-game condition where it's an all-out assault on David Lopan, and you are trying to just get to him as quickly as possible and do as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, and everybody's working that way. So all in all, I'm going to give this a very, very strong 8 out of 10. And the only reason it's not a 9, it's not a 10 because I rarely give out 10s. It's not a 9 because of that Act 1, Act 2 thing that I think might be working against it a little bit. And there is a lot of random dice rolling in this, and if the dice are mean to you, you're pretty much dead in the water. So there's that. I didn't mention that other dice rolling thing because it doesn't bother me at all. I just really enjoyed rolling dice. But absolutely love this game. I think it is going to be on my shelf for a very long time. And when I find other people that enjoyed the movie, this might be one of the games that I suggest to them. But it depends on how savvy they are with the whole board gaming hobby at that point. But that's it from me for Big Trouble in Little China from Everything Epic. An 8 out of 10. Very strong game. Enjoyed it immensely. Had a great time. Go check it out. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side.